This is an old coal mining wasteland. Or is it? To find out more, all you need to do is come along with me. So when I said this is an old coal mining wasteland site, or is it? Well, there's some truth to that. What we're standing on is a giant coal pile, which was formerly a mountain. This area looked much different many years ago. And I'm actually somewhat familiar with this place. This is not my first time here. I used to come back here in the 90s as a teenager with my friends, riding dirt bikes and quads and exploring, and the area looked much different back then. That's because there was equipment left behind, there was foundations, there was evidence that mining took place here. Now, it's mainly just what's left after mine reclamation. So from what I understand from my research, and if I'm incorrect, feel free to add it down below. The Moffett Coal Company operated here from 1916 until the 1960s. And at that point, the breaker was demolished. There is one building that is remaining today. It is posted, so we can't go in, but I have documented it by drone. So I will link that video down below if you want to see what that video looks like. I think it's maybe the shifting shanty house. I could be incorrect. Regardless, back in the 90s though, there was mountains of material. The same stuff we're standing on, but there was mountains of it. This was a huge landscape of just coal and silt piles that you could see for miles around. And I believe in 2009, right around there, they did mine reclamation, which means they removed all the equipment, all the foundations, anything that's related to the mining they took out except for that one building, and they removed a lot of the coal and silt material. So what's left of it today, it's what's left after mine reclamation back around 2009. But it doesn't mean there's nothing to see here. It does look like a wasteland. Where I'm standing, where you can see, except for the tree line, it's pretty barren. There's not a whole lot here. And there's different sections of it as well. And what we're going to do is ride around on the e-bike and just basically take a tour of the area here. Unfortunately, I didn't have a camera, wasn't filming back in my teenage days to show you what this place would have looked like. I wish I did, because it was much more fascinating. But I think it's neat to see from where it came from to what it looks like today, because this was a mecca of coal mining activity. It's also fairly close to the Lackawanna coal mine tour, which I believe some of those underground tunnels connected to these. And this was a combination of surface and underground mining. So surface is strip mining. And this area here was the waste material, where they just piled up the material. The breaker and the colliery was down in that direction, closer to Main Street where the existing building is today. So we're going to hop on the bike. I'm going to show you different parts of the landscape here, see if we can find anything that's kind of hiding in plain sight, and just give you a good visual as to what this modern wasteland looks like here after its old coal mining days. Another fun fact too, Moffett Coal Company may sound familiar. That's because it has ties to the Brooks mine in Scranton. I just recently documented a significant update that the underground miners have done at the Brooks mine located in Nyack Park in Scranton. Well, Moffett Coal Company did a refurb or update or restoration work back, I believe, around the 1950s. They did some interior work of the mine and actually brought in a mine car that they recently extracted. It's been inside since the 1950s. So Moffett Coal Company played a part in the Brooks mine which is currently undergoing restoration and will soon be open to the public to come and see and experience what coal mining life was like, and to learn about the different methods of mining as well. It's really windy, so I know it doesn't sound the best for the audio, can't do much about that. You can see back here, it's a little further away from everything, and people are dumping material. What we're looking at here is one of the last remaining areas that I recognize from back in the 90s. This was part of like an off-road ATV makeshift course. This was a bowl right here. I actually rode around this on my quad back in the day. As long as you kept your momentum going, you'd be able to go around the bank turn and you wouldn't have any trouble. Now over time, obviously weathering and elements and other riders have carved other paths here, but this was part of a bigger area. So you used to start down there, come up, go around, and also you could jump this as well. And when you came up, this would be a big mound or mountain of material right where we're looking. It's kind of flat and level now. It didn't always look like this. There was bigger, higher mountains. And I remember I used to climb some steep hills, do some hill climbing, and you climb up on top and then land. It would plateau, but there's a lot of hills and valleys here, unlike how it looks today. So it's transpired a lot since they did the mine reclamation. But all this material though is waste material. It's a combination of rock, shale, coal dirt like silt, coal material, chunks of coal, and this is basically the byproduct of the coal mining era and what's left of it today. And it's very hard for nature to reclaim it. It's very hard to grow in this material. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. It's very dense and not really any nutrients or sustainability for something to grow in this material, which is why they typically do reclaim. This area I found is another section of wasteland, but a different type. This is all ash. It's all coal ash. Just mounds of it. And you can see nature is definitely reclaiming after decades of just sitting here. And this stuff is not really good for growth, but these white birch are certainly surviving. And as you look around, you can just see how man stopped at a certain point. Those trees are there a long time. This is all obviously disturbed and new growth. The one thing I can certainly spot is that there's trails here. This is frequented by ATVers, dirt bike riders, side-by-side riders. I wonder if an e-bike rider ever traversed this. If not, I may be the first one. So since I do have my monster 26-inch Huffsco e-bike, which is doing great so far, let's see how it handles and tackles this terrain. Cue the music. Oh! Wow. So this is a great example as to why I said this is more than just a wasteland. This is like a fun park. This is too much fun. Well, that was pretty fun. I actually handled it better than I thought. A lot of this stuff is loose material, but with those bigger tires, it just went right across it no problem, and I had enough power to handle nearly every hill. Only one hill is really steep. I had actually really pedal hard. Everything else was a breeze. And I got some decent speed and some air on some of those bumps and bounces. So at least we got to see what this particular wasteland looks like and what it has to offer past its former mining days. Now it's a fun park. Oh boy. You guys can see, got a pretty big hill. A big downhill of ash, a big uphill of culm. But that's where I need to go, so hang on tight. This is going to be a bumpy and interesting ride. Here we go. Oh, almost made it. That's where I just came from. I made it about 90% of the way. I just lost traction up here. This looks like an old retention pond. Or I shouldn't say old, but one that's not really actively used. You can see here it's dry and muddy for the most part. A couple pools of water. The drain's over there. So this is a pretty good sized retention pond like you would see in an industrial site. And basically when all the runoff from stormwater goes through the drains, it usually fills up here and collects, and then eventually goes over the drain spout there and drains into a river. But looks like they maybe built this in anticipation of something that's going to be in the nearby vicinity in the future. This is just from recent rains, that's all it is. I would ride down there, but it looks pretty soft and soggy. The last thing I want to do is get stuck. And if I step on it, I'm probably going to sink in and get covered in mud, so we're just going to admire it from up here. But I think we could go all the way around it. We just were over there, made it around, and figured give you a closer look at this while we're here. It's nothing exciting, but it's something worth noting since we are here. Let's see, is this it should be open on the inside here. This looks like a cage, a debris cage, to stop large items and objects from going inside. There's a ladder. There's another cage here. Oh, look at that. That actually goes in. It's a pretty large corrugated pipe. So now I'm confused, and maybe someone watching could help explain. Initially I thought this was an intake for when this pond fills up, the water would go in and go through the pipes. But now it looks like this pipe here is connected to this, which would maybe expel water to help fill this up. And then we have this, which is just not serving any purpose at all. It's just plugged up. It looks like it's just sitting here actually. I don't think it's even in place. Well, if you guys have any knowledge on this setup here, feel free to comment. But typically when I've seen these, this is a debris cage, so when the water fills up, large items can't go inside and plug up the pipes. So water would go in and get discharged to the rivers, where this one looks like it's flowing out, filling up. I could be wrong, but that's just what it appears as. There's like a trap here. There's a higher view looking down. There's the retention pond that we saw earlier. Looking back to where we came from. And what we're on top of now is what I was trying to explain earlier. There was mountains like this, but they were much higher, much steeper, that you'd be able to climb up like a hill climb. They would probably be close to 50 to 70 feet tall. And you have to get some full speed on whatever you're riding to climb it. And it was a lot of fun, but you'd climb it, clear the top, and land on a plateau on the top. Well, I know there's more to see here, and I do believe there's a area, I think it's fenced in, where some of the equipment that they found here during the reclamation was placed there for preservation. So I'm going to see if I can locate that. Ooh, almost fell. And if we can find it, we'll see what's left of it there. Uh-oh, I spot something. Do you see it? There's something here that doesn't belong. That is part of a Power Wheels. Somebody had a breakdown and just abandoned their vehicle. It's a Power Wheels Jeep. Oh, it's a toy. It's officially abandoned, right? All right, I found it. Here it is. This is an area where they have certain pieces of equipment from back in the days of coal mining here. It's obviously fenced in. It's also posted, so we're not going to try to gain entry. But we can certainly show you from the exterior here. That's a big pulley right there. Like for a big belt. I don't know much of what we're looking at. That's a big cylinder, almost like a funnel. And it's got like pipes or bumps coming out of it, like separators or pulverizers. Maybe for breaking up material. But yeah, I remember seeing all this stuff back in the day. And now it's just a thing of the past. But at least they saved a few pieces. I don't know what they're going to plan on doing with it. Hopefully displaying it maybe at the Lackawanna coal mine, or doing something to preserve it and educate people about it, because it is something significant for the area here. Now what we're looking at here is where much of the reclamation took place. This is what I was trying to describe before. This is where the big mountains of material I was trying to explain, where I was riding and jumping and exploring, and where the equipment was and foundations was all in this area here. This is where most of it was. So the areas that we were at earlier were altered, but not reclaimed like this land was. This is now being reclaimed by nature. And the building I was explaining is right there. So that means the breaker was somewhere in this vicinity. We'd be looking ahead, basically right near it. It was either in front of it or behind it, but it was right in this vicinity where the breaker was. But when I was here back as a kid and a teenager, this area here is where I mainly explored, where there was big mounds of material, equipment, foundations, all types of things showing that mining took place here. And now it's completely unrecognizable. And this is what took place in 2009. Where we were back there is what's left of the big coal piles and mountains, which I also did ride on and explore, but that was mainly coal piles, mountains of silt and coal and material. Oh, look, there's deer. I must have scared them. But this is where the ruins, remains, and remnants of coal mining were back in the 90s when I first discovered them. It was in this area here, so I'm glad I'm able to show you pretty much exactly where it was, even though it doesn't look anything like it used to. think we got some rain clouds possibly moving in and the wind's picking up, so I'm going to be heading out of here. I have one more place to explore after this. But with that being said, I want to thank you for coming along for this adventure. Anything related to coal mining to me is fascinating and something I enjoy sharing with you. And although there's not a lot here left today, it is neat to see how what was once a colliery and breaker and coal mining area, both above and underground, became a wasteland and then became reclaimed, but now today is a combination of both. It's a wasteland, a reclaimed area, an area where you could ride around and explore and have fun on the old culm and coal piles. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching, for coming along on this adventure. And if you want to see more mining related adventures and videos, check the playlist down below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.